All right, Little Legends, The Spell Thief, Chapter 5, How to Trick a Troll. The Tailtown Library was silent and smelled of old books. Jack wandered along the maze of corridors, gazing at the leather-bound volumes that filled every inch of the shelves. Magical apples, magical arrows, magical axes. He couldn't be far from the section on magical beasts. Jack felt Betsy wriggling underneath his sweater. He had never read the library rule book, but he was pretty sure that hens weren't welcome. "Keep still," he muttered, earning himself a fierce look from one of the wicked stepmothers hunched over a book nearby. He wasn't sure whose wicked stepmother it was. They all looked the same, painfully thin with pointy elbows, long teeth, and mean faces. "Be quiet, you filthy little brute," she snapped, far louder than he had spoken to Betsy. "I'm sorry," replied Jack quietly. "There you go again," she exclaimed in horror, "chatting away like the thoughtless creature that you are." Jack thought it best to say nothing and just shrugged in apology as he walked past. "You insolent wretch," screeched the stepmother. "How dare you ignore me? Why, if you were my child, I would lock you in a cellar with no food. That might teach you some manners." Jack rolled his eyes as he walked away. Everyone in Tailtown knew that all step-parents were universally awful. It was one of the more unusual laws of the fairy tale kingdom. Jack could still hear the wicked stepmother ranting away when he got to the section on magical beasts. He pulled out a heavy book that contained everything you could ever want to know about trolls, and a lot that you wouldn't want to, like the page that had been scented to smell exactly like a troll's breath. Jack covered his nose and kept reading. Here's a passage. Troll magic. Troll magic is much like a troll itself, strong and not very clever. However, though it be simple, their magic is very powerful and often goes unseen. Jack thought about this. If Anansi was a troll disguised as a boy, then there was a good chance that Jack was the only one who had noticed. Another passage. There are a few simple ways to break a troll spell. Firstly, make a troll angry. A troll is indeed simple-minded, and once it is angry, it's likely to forget its spell altogether, removing whatever dark magic had been cast. Jack nodded thoughtfully. All he had to do was make Anansi mad. Shouldn't be too difficult. Next passage. If your troll is slow to become angry, the one thing that will always break its magic is water mixed with powdered moonstone. The soaking of a troll with this liquid will soon end its trickery. Jack slammed the book shut. That was it. He had two foolproof methods to reveal that Anansi was a troll spy. What could possibly go wrong? Red, Rapunzel, and the twins were showing Anansi around Tailtown. They'd already visited Rapunzel's castle, the singing stream, and the story tree. Anansi had been telling them about his home in Far, Far Away. He was halfway through the story when Jack caught up with him. "Hey, Jack." "You have got to hear this," exclaimed Red. "Anansi was just telling us how he's really a troll spy," finished Jack triumphantly. No," replied Red. "How tigers have striped skin, not just striped fur." "What?" squawked Betsy. "I'm not interested in any of that," blustered Jack. "Wait a minute. Striped skin as well as fur?" "Yeah," replied Red. "No way," exclaimed Jack. "Imagine that." Then he shook his head. "Wait, I had something important to say. Anansi is a troll spy, and I can prove it." "You can prove it?" said Hansel and Gretel. "I can," said Jack. Anansi frowned. "How?" asked Rapunzel. "You'll see," muttered Jack, before spinning around to face Anansi. "So, troll boy, did you practice to get that ugly, or does it just come naturally?" "Jack!" exclaimed Red, but Jack carried on. "I bet your parents wanted to chop down the family tree after you were born." "What?" asked Anansi, looking confused. "You heard me," repeated Jack. Are you as dumb as well as smelly?" Jack hissed. "Jack," hissed Red, "why are you being so nasty?" "It's okay," whispered Jack. "Trolls have a really short temper. If I get him mad enough, he'll forget all about his spell and turn back into a troll." Jack turned back to Anansi. Eaten any goats recently? That's enough, Jack, shouted Rapunzel. Red put her arm around Anansi's shoulders. Come on, she said. Let's get out of here. She glared at Jack as they walked past. Jack frowned as everyone left. He'd explained to Red what he was trying to do. Why didn't she believe him? Looks like we need another plan, he muttered quietly. What? Shrieked Betsy. You'll see, replied Jack, stroking the hen's head. You'll see. It was early afternoon, and the sun spread warm light all over Tailtown. Jack and Betsy were perched on a narrow roof watching the crowds pass beneath them. Jack was balancing a small barrel of lightly glowing water between his legs. He borrowed the moonstone that his mom had hung over his front door to ward off trolls, and was worried that she'd find out and be angry, especially since he'd crushed it into a powder and poured it into the barrel he was holding. The more he thought about it, the more he realized it would be hard to put the moonstone back, and therefore he hadn't really borrowed it at all, so he did the only thing he could and stopped thinking about it. The plan was to wait until he saw Anansi approaching and then tip the moonstone water over him, breaking the spell. Of course, the others might get a little wet too, but as long as they saw that Anansi was a troll, they'd forget all about it. So Jack sat back and made himself comfortable, and waited for Rapunzel, Red, Anansi, and the twins to walk by. After nearly 2 hours, Betsy had fallen asleep, and Jack was starting to feel a lot less comfortable. It was very hot, and although he had lots of water to drink, the moonstone made it taste really chalky. Worse than that, he needed to go to the bathroom really bad. It was a huge relief when he finally saw Anansi and the others walking down the alley. Jack sprang into action, or at least he tried to. He'd been sitting on the roof for so long that his legs did nothing but prickle with pins and needles. He lunged forward to try and tip the water out of the barrel, but he accidentally let go of it altogether. A sick feeling rose in his stomach as the barrel rolled down the roof and disappeared from view. There was a scream, a shout, a splintering of wood, and a huge splash. Jack scrambled over the rooftops with clumsy legs and peered down. There, in the middle of the alley, was Anansi, stepping quickly away from the ruined remains of the barrel and the water that was already soaking into the ground. Did you see that? Exclaimed Rapunzel, turning with bright eyes to look at Red. If Anansi hadn't moved so quickly, that barrel would have fallen right on top of you both. I know, gasped Red. Thanks, Anansi. I'm just glad I was able to help, said Anansi. Now, weren't you going to show me that stall that sells singing harps? Of course. Come on, replied the twins, and off they went. Jack let out a sigh of relief. It had nearly gone all horribly wrong. But as the group walked away, Anansi spun around and glared directly at Jack. Jack ducked immediately, but he knew that Anansi had seen him. Jack gently nudged Betsy, who woke and murmured, What? No, it didn't work, replied Jack. But we'll get him, Betsy. Don't you worry about that.